Welcome into Friday Night Insights. I am your host this week, Steve Bonham. You can find me everywhere at nonsense_Steve. I am joined by Mike Manning. Mike, how you doing this evening?
Could be worse. We got college football championships this weekend.
Could be worse is the appropriate answer. That is the correct answer right there. And also joined by Jason, that FF nerd, Draven. You know, I'm noticing here that from that intro, you're the only one that still survived. There's a real Willy Wonka vibe going on right now.
Yeah, I just don't disappear, man. I feel like I've been really getting into anime, and so I feel like I just keep leveling up in my powers. And so I'm the only one who has the staying power here.
You're evolving and just knocking the others down.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just taking their power and slowly getting better as they disintegrate into the background.
Look, I mean, I'd argue with you, but the results speak for themselves at this point. So
yeah, pretty obvious.
Yeah, here you still stand. But let's get into it. So we had the Thursday night game last night. Week 13 buys include the Browns, Packers, Titans, and Panthers. Dallas versus the Saints. Did you guys have any big takeaways from the game?
I mean, just that I was right. Outside of that, I feel like I nailed this game. I told a lot of people to play Tony Pollard because, you know, that felt like the right play, and Zeke dealing with a knee issue, and even with more touches, Pollard's been overproducing, and it's just been something that I've been really harping on. And with Lamb back and Cooper coming off of COVID makes me really nervous about his health and how many catches and how active he's going to be in the offense. So okay, starting those two. The big surprise, though, is the fact that Hill actually ran, which I wasn't ready for with the plantar fasciitis that he's been dealing with.
Right.
And I was real nervous on that one. So
yeah, the over-under on that was 41 rush yards for Taysom Hill. And I seriously considered the under. And then he got, 90? He got close to 100.
He was over 100.
Did he get over it?
Over. I think it was 110 or 111.
Yeah.
At the end of the day. And it's just, that's mind-blowing to me.
Yeah.
And most of it came in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, back to being a fullback playing quarterback. So
well, now he's dealing with a middle finger injury.
I mean, did he really pass the ball anyway? I mean, other than 5-yard passes to Deontay Harris that he was trying to break for big plays. Other than that, did any pass actually look good to you? That you're like, oh, I'm so glad it's Taysom Hill and not Trevor Siemian.
No, not really.
Every now and then, there's times that I'm like, he can really be a good quarterback, and then it's like he forgets how to throw the next play, and so it's very confusing. Some of his passes are perfect, others just look like he's not trying.
I don't understand why they played Trevor Siemian in the first place, even though he was dealing with the same injury he's been dealing with now, Taysom Hill.
Yeah.
So there's zero chance next year that Trevor Siemian is starting for this team.
Right.
And there's a good chance that he's not even on this roster.
Yeah.
So why is Taysom Hill just waited 2 weeks out of, I know there was the concussion, there was the plantar fasciitis, but he's still dealing with the plantar fasciitis, and we saw how explosive he was and still able to move this offense a lot better than Trevor Siemian.
Yeah. And it was a low bar. So, I mean, it's not like you could actually sit there and say oh, well, it was going to get significantly worse with Taysom Hill in the lineup. Maybe this was Sean Payton's way of easing us into the Taysom Hill experience because he knew the blowback of, Taysom Hill not being an actual NFL quarterback. So he was like, all right, we'll play Trevor Siemian and then you'll see it's not that bad when we get to Taysom Hill.
It could be worse.
Yeah. I still believe there's some kind of background something in that contract where he has to play X amount of snaps at the starting QB position for that money to trigger, because there's such
exactly.
There's such a huge gap in the numbers that I feel like they want him to still hit that low number, the 40 million, as opposed to getting all the way up to the 90. And I feel like there has to be something we're not seeing in the language, he has to play 70% of the snaps or something, and they're trying to just guarantee he definitely doesn't.
Although I am concerned what this will be like for Alvin Kamara once he returns, as we expected coming into the season with the QB battle. If Siemian if Hill was going to win, we saw it's continuing this year.
Yeah, And again, like the biggest issue for them is the offensive line. I mean, that offensive line can't stay healthy. The reason that Taysom Hill was at least a little bit productive last night is because he was running for his life. Like he was constantly under duress in that backfield. So until that offensive line gets right, I don't really like any of them. I thought Mark Ingram could at least have a decent game. The Cowboys' run defense is actually terrible. So to have the poor performance he had, to keep ceding touches to Ty Montgomery for really no reason. Like he wasn't doing anything with the ball either. And then the one big play that Mark Ingram did break gets called back on a holding penalty. So it was a rough game all around for the rushing game for the Saints. But now hopefully with the extended time, they get Kamara back and hopefully he's all right. All right, let's see. Let's skip past the rest of that because it was a disaster otherwise.
Well, so Gallup found the end zone, right?
Yeah, the toe tap, yeah, and then the beautiful interception. Also.
He still makes it happen, man. Also. I don't know how he catches those balls, but he loves to do the toe tap and just make it look pretty.
But lucky for all of us, that game is now in the past. Looking ahead to the future, we've already got some questions lined up here. So Soaring Eagle wants to know, officially concerned about D-Hop not playing. So should he be playing Lockett, T. Higgins, or Elijah Moore? FYI, Waddle is my other wide receiver. So he's playing Waddle, Elijah Moore, T. Higgins, or Tyler Lockett. Definitely not Tyler Lockett. That's never the answer for me. It's between Higgins and Elijah Moore, and we saw last week with Wilson. I mean, yuck. That's just a disaster. So unless we know for sure it's not Zach Wilson for some reason under center, I'm going with T. Higgins here pretty easily.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that because, man, I like Lockett, but he, again, is going to be required to have that long ball, and the fact they keep boosting up DK and getting him targets this week just makes me so nervous for Lockett. And so you have to play Higgins here. And like you said, with Wilson, man, Moore just looks completely lost. And is he just a bad quarterback? Are we at that point that we can say that Wilson is not made for the NFL?
No, it's still too soon. Yeah.
I think we're too recent too close to the injury to be able to really say that. I mean, doctors were reporting that he shouldn't be coming back the time that he came back.
Right.
That he should have waited a couple more weeks to return. Yeah. So this is kind of as expected, possibly, or for some people at least.
I was talking about on the Wednesday show as well how he was complaining after the game that the knee isn't stable, which I feel like that's just a red flag in and of itself. But what do I know? I'm not a doctor like Aaron Rodgers. Let's see. What do we got here? All right. Pick 2 of Darnell Mooney, Van Jefferson, and Jerry Jeudy. I think Mooney for sure.
Yeah.
Of the 3 of those, he's the alpha on his team, even though it's still Andy Dalton.
And Allen Robinson is out. I'm pretty sure.
Allen Robinson and Fields are both doubtful.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So that helps.
And each of the last 2 weeks now with Andy Dalton under center in at least some capacity, Darnell Mooney's gone over 100 yards. So definitely going with Mooney there. So Van Jefferson or Jerry Jeudy. I feel like Jefferson probably gives you the best bet. High scoring, high passing offense with OBJ questionable, and they're going up against the Jags defense that is absolutely terrible and is missing their number 1 corner. So I feel like Jefferson's probably the other pick there.
I think it depends on if it's PPR or not, just because I think Jeudy could see a lot of targets against KCD. And so that would be where I would go with Mooney and Jeudy if it's PPR, just because I think they have more targets. And OBJ seemed to do pretty well with his as well as Jefferson. But I don't know. I don't trust that either of them are going to see 10 targets again,
right?
Along with Kupp. So.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be big to see if OBJ does end up playing or not, because his practicing has seemed to stay plateaued at the DNP for a while, for the entire week, which it was expected to actually start practicing. The hip it sounded fine in the beginning, and even McVay was like, it's not really a big concern to us. It's not a big deal. And it's starting to sound more concerning, at least for just this week.
Right.
If he is out, I'd go either PPR or not, still Van Jefferson, because Stafford targets the wide receivers more than anybody in the NFL.
As the established 2, I would say for sure.
And this KC defense has picked it up the past few games. They've been really strong against wide receivers. They're actually giving up more against the tight ends and the running backs than they are the wide receivers recently.
All right. Let's see. Back to Soaring Eagle. Who's the better running back? Is this like in general a philosophy question or like currently?
I'm assuming would be my guess. It's normally how we play this.
Saquon Barkley or Javonte Williams. So who is the better one?
I like Williams this week. I mean, I wish I could trust Barkley more, but it's just with Gordon dealing with a shoulder and ankle injury, the fact that he's questionable or doubtful, I guess, at this point.
Yeah.
At one point, they said 50-50. I'm leaning toward he's probably not going to play.
Right.
But I'm going to say with the volume that you have to go with Williams here.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Javonte this is what people have been waiting for all season, that drafted him in the mid rounds and said, wait for that end of season when he takes over for Gordon and has a great playoff schedule. Well, he took over for Gordon with that, whether he wanted to or like whether coaches wanted to or not, because they've been an even split the entire season. Right. And they've been pretty productive on both ends. It's been about 4.5 per carry versus 4.9 per carry, and then 7.5 yards per catch and 7.1 yards per catch. Like, there's not much difference in their production. Everybody's wowed by Javonte because he's broken like twice as many tackles and has nearly twice as many big runs. So Williams all the way for me.
Yeah, we've talked about this several times. The fact that even with both of them playing and healthy on a weekly basis, Javonte Williams still finds his way into at least flex consideration. I mean, even with Melvin Gordon still on the field. But if either one of them were ever to be out and it would be one guy getting the entire workload, no offense to Mike Boone, but one guy getting the entire workload, it's going to be a top 10 or 15 performance. And that's what we're looking at for Williams this week.
Especially with Glennon starting for the Giants.
The neck is starting for the Giants.
Yeah, Giraffe Man himself. Yes. Oh,
especially, it's so funny because that is the exact issue that Jones is having. Is he has a neck strain. The irony there just is impossible to overlook. The biggest neck in the world, and the other guy has a neck strain.
Impossible to overlook, like Mike Glennon's neck. All right. Atlanta Falcons versus the Tampa Bay Bucks. So 8 on here, it's listed as Antonio Brown still not practicing, expected to miss 2 weeks. Well, he definitely will miss the next 2 weeks because he is now suspended for the next 3 games. We've had a discussion about this going on in our Discord chat, but basically he was going to miss the time anyway with the ankle injury. So he just accepts the punishment from the league, not going to petition or fight it in any way, shape, or form so that he can get it done and over with and will miss 1 game compared to what he was basically going to miss anyway. So all he's missing out is the game checks, and he's made so much money at this point, he doesn't care anyway. But at this point, you're still holding AB on your roster, right? Like going into the playoffs?
I think it really depends on if you think you can make it without playing him. You've kind of done that already.
At this point, you kind of have been already. It's if you're in playoff position with AB on your bench, I'm not dropping him.
Even if, for example, I'm totally hypothetical here, but Henderson is potentially not going to play. Would you drop AB to pick up like Michelle, for example?
No, probably not.
Okay. I wasn't sure where you guys were at on that one, so I figured I'd ask,
But I mean, it's a difficult question to ask me because I hate Sony Michel. So you could guarantee me he's going to get that whole workload, and I wouldn't recommend playing Sony Michel.
Plus, we know that the upside with AB is so high that what we saw in the beginning of the season when he was still playing, he was the first person that Tom Brady looked to, especially downfield.
Yeah. He's only played 5 games this season, but if that was enough to qualify, he would still be top 5 in points per game at wide receiver right now. So it's just when he's in the lineup, you have to start him. So can you cut him now and hope that he's still there in a couple of weeks?
I think if you cut AB and you're in a league where there's anybody that's a top 2-3 spot in the standings, there's a guarantee that they're going to find somebody they're okay with dropping.
Yeah.
And pick up AB.
Yeah. There's got to be somebody on the back end of your bench. We were talking about this too At this point in the season, you've got buys this week and next week, but more than likely a majority of your roster has already played through it. If you have 2 QBs and your quarterback has already been on his bye, drop your backup quarterback. Drop your backup defense. Drop your backup kicker. You shouldn't be carrying backup tight end. You shouldn't have more than one at any of those positions as you go into this playoff stretch, unless it's like you, for some reason, have 2 top 5 or top 10 at a position. If you're holding players that would actually make your opponents better, then sure. But yeah, definitely not somebody I'm willing to give up on yet, even though he is very frustrating to try to deal with. Brashad Perryman promoted to the active roster. Chase Edmonds will miss this game. He will be out, or wait, that's got to be in the wrong spot. Let's see. So next one is the Bears and the Cardinals. That's why that's there. Come on, Jack. You know.
That was probably me. I can't remember.
That was you?
That was probably me. I'll take the risk on this one. I'm sure.
Yeah. He did that on purpose.
Yeah, definitely, just to throw me. Any other notes from this Falcons or Bucks game? That was the only thing we had on there. Like for me, I've got Tom Brady going over 300 yards.
Yeah.
Gronk is still a monster. When he's healthy, you have to play him. Are you concerned at all about Matt Ryan and the cold streak that he's been on?
I don't think he's in consideration.
I'm more curious about Kyle Pitts here because
that's kind of why I would care about Matt Ryan. That would be it. I just phrased that poorly, perhaps.
Because Cordero Patterson clearly has his mindset that no matter where he's at, he's going to give you a good fantasy day. He's going to be top 20 at both positions, and he'll be set to go there. But outside of him, this would be the perfect matchup for Pitts to have success because that's an area that Tampa Bay can't really defend. So,
and you would think they're going to end up chasing points here too. So, if there was any time to do it, but given how this season has gone so far, it'll just mean more targets and opportunities for Cordero Patterson. So Cardinals Bears. Justin Fields did not return to practice Wednesday, still dealing with the rib injury. So he will actually be out this game. They've got Andy Dalton starting. They've got Nick Foles listed as the backup for this one. And we already talked about the hot streak that he's had with Mooney. If you are desperate or you have a QB on bye this week, is it worth considering Andy Dalton with the numbers he's put up the last 2 weeks when he's basically playing for his career?
I'm probably not. I think you can find somebody else that's more available that you can still stream at this point. So I guess maybe in 2 quarterbacks, you could play Dalton, but outside of that, I can't.
I don't think he's. I mean, this Cardinals defense has shown all season long that it's good.
Right.
It's good against the pass, especially. It's pretty good against the run. I think that they're going to want to get Montgomery established as best as they can, and Mooney will still be a heavy target guy, as we've seen with Dalton under center. But Dalton's done it against some not great pass defenses.
Yeah.
So he's done it, but let's put a little asterisk next to it.
Right. Arizona is top 3 for the best, worst matchup, I'll say. They're best against quarterbacks. So giving up the 3rd fewest amount of points per game. Over the last 2 weeks, my point was, in a game and a half, basically, Andy Dalton is QB 12 in the 2 games that he's played. So, I mean, numbers are numbers. Blake Bortles can Blake Bortle his way into the top 12 here. So, but yeah, you'd have to be extremely desperate to consider that. Kyler Murray was back at practice this week. He's listed as a game time decision. They've said they're being overly cautious. I can't blame them because it's a game against a Chicago team that they really should win pretty easily. So
I think it's a great time to roll him back out there. Just let him get some reps in and then pull him again and let.
My whole thing here is if he's healthy enough to play, you should really be playing him because at this point it's been 3 weeks that he's missed now because of the bye.
Need to knock that rust off real quick.
Yeah, you want him to be in a decent rhythm because as it stands, as it looks right now, you're going to have that first round bye in the playoffs anyway. So if you go a full month of Kyler not playing, then he comes back for 2 or 3 games and then is off again. I mean, he's getting more than enough rest here. I think as long as he's healthy and willing to go, he should be out there. If not, Colt McCoy has been decent. So again, another backup consideration.
Also not playing with Hopkins though. So
right.
That's the other thing that more bothers me than anything else is why they're probably been holding Murray out is because if they don't have the number one option, why roll him out there? Because that's who he really has connection with.
I mean, Colt McCoy even showed that the rest of these options aren't exactly too bad.
Yeah,
Christian Kirk's been making plays. Zach Ertz has been showing he was a great pickup for the trade deadline, and Rondale Moore is catching 100 passes behind the line of scrimmage.
I mean, it's kind of funny to me that you've got the Cardinals team here you've got AJ Green, you've got Zach Ertz, you've got James Conner. They've basically put together this team of, old vets that everyone else was done with. And they're giving them one last ride here, and they've got the best record in the NFL right now.
They're moneyballing it, right?
Yeah, exactly. All right, question. What are your thoughts on RB roster management on stashing possible high-end players like Snell, Jarrett Patterson, Booker, Marlon Mack? So I believe this would be like stashing backups that could potentially cash, but you don't have the starting running back.
Yeah, I mean, of those, I still don't even believe that Snell's the real backup there. I think I'd still rather have McFarland.
He isn't.
But I think it's going to be split between him and Balaj, which makes that a no for me. Jarrett Patterson actually looked pretty good when he has had snaps and looked like he could actually be a serviceable back. So I'm okay with that. It really depends on who you're dropping here.
Yeah.
Because if you get, like he said, if you're dropping your second tight end, sure, I'm okay picking up one of these guys to potentially have that flyer that could, if one of the other players go down, make me a league winner.
Yeah, as we've seen in recent weeks, just the past week or two, if like Chuba Hubbard was on your waiver wire for any reason, or if Alexander Madison was on your waiver wire for any reason, these are guys that if they've already shown you even that once the starter gets hurt, they are put into a full workload. There is not much question about it. So guys like Booker is a good guy to pick up in case Barkley happens to have another injury. He's still playing now, even as Barkley is coming back into his own.
Right.
Jarrett Patterson's a solid. He's still going to be like Gibson is right now, where Jarrett Patterson would be more of a 1 to 2 down guy, and then McKissick would still come in to spell for passing downs. Marlon Mack seems like a tough situation.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that would be considered a high-end handcuff type of player.
Yeah.
But based on how he's been used, even whenever it's spelling Jonathan Taylor, it would be a full-out committee at that point if Taylor were to miss a game or something.
Yeah, I think it would be a split between the two of them. And because Marlon Mack has never been a pass-catching back himself. He's never been involved in the passing game at all. So if something were to happen to Taylor for whatever reason, Mack would get the between the tackles and maybe he would get the goal line work, but that would be about it. Patterson's interesting, but again, like you said, he would only be interesting to me if Gibson and McKissick were both out at the same time. Otherwise, I just don't think he's going to get enough volume for it to matter. And then, Snell off the list. I think the name not listed here that I've talked about that I think is interesting, and I'm skipping ahead a little bit.
I was like, there's two names that I'm thinking of currently.
The one that popped to my mind before was this week, just on the back end of your roster, adding Kene Wangu. Like, just because of the ability that he has to break off big plays that we've seen from his kick returning, that he has that explosive playability. And right now he's the next man up behind Alexander Madison. So if something happens to Madison, all of a sudden he's thrust into a much larger role than anyone ever could have predicted for him at the beginning of the season. So for me, I mean, that's a lottery ticket that you could very easily cut and not feel bad about if you need the roster space eventually. But as long as Cook is out, it's at least got the possibility to matter.
Well, yeah, and I'm assuming that most people have already done this, but we said it weeks ago when this started getting closer and closer. But Jamal Williams, I don't understand. If you have Swift, you should have already had Williams there just waiting.
Mm.
So he's the other guy that I am surprised that a lot of people didn't have. I mean, and he's going to have a ton of volume this week because they did officially rule Swift out.
Yeah.
And so that's something that I'm really excited for.
Well, I thought you were going to say Jamar Jefferson because Williams was the lead back. There's no reason Jamal Williams should have ever been on anybody's waiver wire. That's just
I think
lunacy.
People got upset because he started off strong and then just had such a dip.
Yeah.
Well, and got hurt. So a lot of people were like, I need space. I'm going to cut him here.
Yeah, I get it. All right. It says Chargers versus Bengals, and then there's no notes. You care to elaborate on that, Mr. Charger man? I mean,
because there no injuries, nothing to really worry about. That we're not tracking
nothing
anything.
to note.
Not really. I mean, we still don't know who the backup is for running back, so that's the only thing I'm curious about on that team. Joe Mixon is going to eat, so there's that. This is a perfect matchup for him. I don't know if this is going to be a blowout or just like a really low-scoring game. So it's not going to be in between. Like, it's either going to be over 50 points or under 40. Like, there's not an in-between for me on this game.
Yeah, I think it ends up being a track meet. At least that's how I'm betting it. So we'll see what happens there.
I'm hoping.
Yeah.
The weather reports during the week have not looked good.
Don't rain on my parade, Mike. Come on.
It's literally supposed to rain.
It's still Friday. Just let me have this for now, okay? I can be sad on Sunday. Just let me have this today.
I mean, I'm excited for it because this Chargers defense does let up plenty of big plays, as we saw to route running specialists like Deontay Johnson. So I think that Jamar Chase has a good chance to be able to break a big game here. Mixon, obviously, this rush defense is god-awful.
Yeah.
The only team that hasn't been able to take advantage of it was the Steelers, and that's because they're just a worse run offense.
It's because they forgot they had a running back for a couple of weeks here. They need to turn that around. All right, here we go. Thanks for the help last week. Had a good week until Fournette ruined it. We'll see if you took the preseason advice, you would have had Fournette yourself.
Only your advice.
And then wanted to ruin it. But same question as last week. PPR league, need to Waddle, Higgins, or Gaskin? Leaning Waddle and Gaskin.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably Waddle and Higgins.
Yeah, it's probably Higgins for me over Gaskin.
Just because, well, unless it just becomes a torrential downpour for that game.
Yeah.
You have to go Waddle and Haskin here just because of the opportunity, the fact that it's PPR. I mean, Gaskin, it is the week that Gaskin should have a good game, according to his record so far. It's almost like the home road splits for Ben, but he continues to have the odd week success. So
I have to say probably Waddle and Higgins just because Higgins finally showed the utilization actually produced for the first time since probably, I don't know, it's been about 5 weeks at this point.
Yeah.
Since he's had a good game. But he just continues to soak up targets. And now finally, they were able to take advantage of a poor secondary and hit a couple deep balls. It's just going to be big because the roles were completely different against the Steelers than they have been the entire season for the two. Jamar Chase was targeted short. His average depth of target was only about 5 yards downfield. And T. Higgins was about 17, 18 yards downfield.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting if that continues or if they're going to switch back.
And really, it depends. Like when we're talking about PPR, as we generally do here, I always lean with a flex spot on wide receiver. They just have the best opportunity to give you free points for a 2-3 yard catch. And the numbers, I think, are a little bit deceiving for Gaskin. 2 weeks ago, they played the Jets, and he had an 18.6 with decent production. But last week, in a game where they blew out Carolina for some reason, I don't know what's gotten into the Dolphins. They're all of a sudden decided they want to be a good team again. But they're playing the Giants. It should be a similar game script to this week, where they should be able to control that game and win it fairly easily. And he had a 19 in PPR last week, but that's because he ended up in the end zone twice. So if you're playing Myles Gaskin, it's because you're banking on him scoring multiple touchdowns again. And to me, I'd rather take the sure thing in Higgins and maybe he gets in the end zone and gives you similar production anyway.
The floor is a lot higher, that's for sure.
Yeah. Vikings Lions, we've talked about this a little bit already, but DeAndre Swift is dealing with the shoulder injury. He's going to miss potentially multiple weeks. He's out at least this week. So he will not be playing this week. It is the Jamal Williams show. And I mean, there's not really much else, is there? I mean, like Jamar Jefferson is interesting because he's the backup to at least know the name and maybe have him rostered in a deep league, but that's about it.
It would have to be pretty deep. As we've seen, they are not afraid to give Williams a full workload.
Yeah.
They want to split whenever it's Swift and Williams, but whenever it's one or the other, they've been perfectly happy giving a full workload to either one. And I don't expect either Jefferson or Ugwuiki to have much input on this game.
Right, exactly. So Dalvin Cook has also been ruled out for this game, dealing with a shoulder injury of his own. We talked about this briefly on the show the other day, but they were calling him day to day, that he could potentially even play through this. But our guy Edwin Porras basically said that it's a 2 to 4 week best case scenario, and that they're hoping that they can rest him for a decent amount of time, and that the NFC will continue to be bad enough that they can hobble into the playoffs and they'll have Dalvin Cook healthy for the playoffs, or healthy-ish. Dalvin Cook's version of healthy, because he's never actually healthy. But having him back for a playoff stretch, which doesn't help you for fantasy purposes. But again, that means Alexander Mattison is going to get the bulk of the workload, and we're going to see more Kenegwanu. So
Justin Jefferson, that's the big part for me. It's going to be a lot of Justin Jefferson.
Yeah, throwing the ball a lot. Sure. Yeah.
Well,
Kirk Cousins is going to be a good play. Justin Jefferson's going to be a good play.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Cook missed the last game against the Lions this year, or the first game against the Lions this year.
Yeah.
Madison had 25 carries, 7 catches, 153 yards, and a touchdown.
Yeah.
Like, you can expect something similar to that for him probably this week.
Yeah, he's a locked-in top 10 play this week for sure.
Him and Williams. Actually, probably both Williams.
Yeah, Williams is in my, I think he's like 12 or something. He's borderline for me, but he's definitely up there. So Gaskin over David Montgomery then was the next question, and I would still say no.
I know he's been disappointing lately because for some reason all the touchdowns have been in the passing game. But his usage is just astronomical.
Yeah.
He's not leaving the field.
Right.
I don't know. I would actually roll out Gaskin here just because I'm crazy and I can't trust. I'm tired of it.
Crazy.
I can't help it, man. I don't like trusting somebody who, even if he's on the field, he's not touching the ball because it's Andy Dalton. Dalton's going to take the risk instead of dumping it off to him and chuck it downfield. So when he's going to be open, he's going to pass it to him.
Yeah.
It's crazy that we're having this as a question.
Well, and it's actually like debatable.
Yeah.
Is the thing. There you go. So if you want to look at that, I can probably bring that up. Oops. Not that button. I'm just clicking all kinds of things over here. I know. I need to keep my face. Let's see. We can do that. All right. So there you go. If we look at the current ECR, it's saying just barely David Montgomery. So it's a lot more of a discussion than you would normally say. But very, very interesting. Definitely. I would still go with Montgomery. I'm going with the girl I brought to the dance there, but I don't know. I've always been a Gaskin truther, so it's very difficult for me to stay unbiased.
But you're also a Chicago fan. Like
I know it's
very confusing.
It's my head against my heart, and I don't know which is which either. So that's Dolphins defense or Colts this week.
Ooh, those are both good.
They are. I think I'm leaning Dolphins.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
I think the Dolphins have a much better chance of the turnovers,
the giraffe. You gotta play the team against the giraffe. That's what you gotta do.
I mean, the Houston offense hasn't really been great for fantasy defenses recently.
Right.
When they're not really getting turnovers as much as you would expect, like they had with Davis Mills at quarterback. Tyrod's going to take care of the ball better than most quarterbacks in the NFL. So
I mean,
they aren't going to score a lot, but they're still going to take care of the ball.
It's the most bizarre thing because the Texans have been a much better team with Tyrod Taylor, and that's not surprising in any way, shape, or form. But what is surprising is they keep trotting him out there, despite the fact that they're never going to win anything or do anything, and they're just making their draft pick worse. I don't know what it is they're trying to do.
I'm more frustrated they aren't using Cooks more. Feed that man the ball. I'm tired of seeing it going to Nico Collins and everybody else.
Yeah.
He needs more targets. That's part of the reason you're not winning anything. Come on. David right. Johnson. Jeez.
Well, what are your end of season / playoff strategies in terms of stashing high-end handcuffs? Only guys a note on his waiver wire, Alex Collins, Snell, Patterson, Booker, Max. So it's same basically question we got earlier. But he said Collins is a new name on that list we didn't talk about before.
Yeah, and he's actually a starter. I'm
just not a good one.
Not good. He's got, like I said last week, 6 to 7 points is what you're expecting to get out of him.
He's also questionable this week.
Yeah,
and has DJ Dallas taking the pass catching work, and they signed the ghost of Adrian Peterson for no reason.
Sorry,
win now.
Sorry, play this week.
Sorry, they're in win now mode. I forgot. That's
what it's called.
Yeah.
I didn't know they changed the definition of win now.
I know, right? I don't know. Like, who
would you might win now?
I'd say Booker is by far the top guy on this list, and there's a pretty big margin.
Yeah, 100%. Because we've seen him take the workload and be a back end RB2, and I feel like if something were to happen at Barkley, that could absolutely happen again. But for these other guys, if they were thrown into a number 1 role, I don't know if I'd have him ranked any higher than the flex. Like Alex Collins is in the starting role, and I don't have him ranked higher than the flex.
Yeah, like with the Steelers and with the Colts, even though they have a number 1 back that is a bell cow back.
Yeah.
Once they get hurt, it doesn't automatically make the next up guy a bell cow guy. They're not going to use them the same way. It could easily change the whole philosophy of the backfield.
All right, let's see. All right, roster question. It's got Eckler, Najee Harris, Mitchell, and Cooper Kupp. Weak wide receiver 2. He's got Hilliard from waivers. Should he trade Mitch and Najee for a legit wide receiver 2 and then flex Hilliard the rest of season, or no?
I mean, he's asking either Mitchell or Najee.
Yeah.
I'd be fine. I mean, it's hard to get rid of Najee.
Just because of volume and opportunity still there.
Yeah.
And
Mitchell I'm more nervous about because do we have an idea of Mostert's ever coming back? Like, have they
not this year?
Okay.
Yeah.
He's on he was put on the season-ending IR.
Okay. Dang it. It's really
yes, clarifying it is either running back. I'd rather keep Harris, even though he has struggled the last couple of weeks. If you could move Mitchell for a decent wide receiver 2 to go with Kupp, I don't think you necessarily have to play Hilliard in your flex every week. I mean, you could, but
I think Hilliard's a tough one because I don't think he'll have much value once. Who's the other running back for Tennessee? McNichols.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, once McNichols come back from that concussion, he was the receiving back. Well, that's what Hilliard is right now. So they're either going to be a big 3-way split of carries and catches, or McNichols is going to just take over again. So I don't think you even have to really worry about him a whole lot. I think Mitchell, you can get a very solid wide receiver for how he's been playing lately and how much usage he's been getting, because even with the broken finger, he's getting even targets and catches, which he wasn't early in the season.
Yeah, I think
especially with Debo out.
Really, what your problem is, if you're playing Hilliard as your flex, that's fine as a temporary Band-Aid, but I don't think long-term. Basically, long-term, you're hoping that Bateman or Kadarius Toney, become that flex you can rely on a weekly basis. Otherwise, if you are going to trade Mitchell, rather than get like a strong wide receiver 2, you're looking for basically like 2 flex level wide receivers to just put into that mix with those guys.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to look at the list and see what you're kind of wanting to get, and I don't know if you can do it, but if you could actually get Deontay Johnson, with maybe both Mitchell and Boyd.
Yeah, Mitchell and Boyd for Deontay Johnson. If they would take that deal, I would do that.
I personally, before this week happened, I was really trying to get Lockett or Higgins plus Jamal Williams to the Swift owner for Lamb, but he was not taking that whatsoever. So it was worth a shot. You never know.
Sure, yeah.
Never hurts to ask.
Right.
But Higgins just had a big game. Lockett just had a big game. Williams is clearly going to be the starter this week. I was like, yeah, who knows? I might be able to get away with something here.
Let's bank on the headlines that we've had here.
Right.
But maybe McLaurin. Outside of that, I mean, most of the guys that you're looking at are not people I'm super interested in.
I'll say it also depends on what this lineup really looks like how many players are needing to be played at each position. Are we looking at 3 wide receivers each week, 2, 1 flex or 2 flex?
Well, based on how it's worded, I would assume that it's 2 wide receivers and a flex with 2 running back, because he's saying weak wide receiver 2, and then lists out the wide receivers there. Would be my assumption.
Would you rather have Mitchell at the flex solidly and just bank on Bateman picking it up a little bit or Tony coming back healthy, or would you try and trade Mitchell? I think I might want to keep Mitchell in the flex and just have a very good 3-set running back.
Yeah, because I don't know if you're saying you're going to end up playing Hilliard on a week. I'm agreeing with you there, because again, I feel like if you're playing Hilliard every week at the flex, I don't see how that's better than Bateman or Kadarius Toney or Boyd as your wide receiver 2. You're making you're making your flex worse to make your wide receiver 2 better. You're just trading off the situation.
Yeah, it really has to be an area that you're clearly going up. So, yeah. And at this point, there's not really it's a brutal list when you look at the top 24.
Yeah,
because there's no consistency, and I hate that. So I'm definitely more risk averse when it comes to that, and I'd rather keep Mitchell. But if you're trying to move him and you can for, like I said, Johnson would be my ideal switch right there. But
yeah, ideally, yeah. All right, let's see. Alex Collins or Ty Johnson full PPR rest of season. Alex Collins.
Yeah, just because Wilson's there. If
yep.
They literally had any other quarterback. If they played Mike White, if they played Joe Flacco, I'd be all over Johnson here. I think he does not use running backs. Except handing it off, and it's Coleman.
The big thing with these offenses is, that Ty Johnson's most productive games were when Mike White was at quarterback. He hasn't done much outside of that other than the Cincinnati game. Oh, that's still Mike White. Yeah, so every game that Ty Johnson has really produced has been with Mike White at quarterback.
Yeah.
Zach Wilson's not a guy that's going to target the running backs unless they're not looking at the ball and it hits them and goes in for an interception off of their back. That's the only time he's targeting them, apparently. But Collins, at least you have the chance that Russell Wilson starts to get healthy and this Seattle offense picks it up a little bit. And so you're a starting running back on a better offense.
Right. Well, and the trouble for me with Ty Johnson is he's obviously not, a 3-down back. He's never going to have the full workload. And on that team, you're banking on the pass catching. And as, Jason already mentioned, if you're playing Zach Wilson, if it's anyone other than Zach Wilson, great. But with Zach Wilson at the starting QB, he's just not getting those opportunities. He's never going to get the goal line carries. He's never going to be the red zone back. They are happy using Tevin Coleman for that. And in 2 weeks now, they're going to get Michael Carter back. And then that just muddies that situation up even more than it already is. So, yeah, I'll take Collins, even though it's also an equally messy situation on a team that has been equally terrible this season. Eventually, I think they have more hope of turning it around than the Jets do.
Maybe.
Potentially.
The whole AP thing is just throwing me for a loop. I still don't know.
Yeah. New York Giants against the Miami Dolphins. We've talked about a couple of times a little bit here. Kadarius Toney and Sterling Shepard are both logging to do not practice on Wednesday. Toney on Thursday as well, and is listed as doubtful. Shepard limited capacity, doubtful for Sunday. John Ross, questionable. Wow, John Ross is still in the league? Oh, man. That's a good note.
He decides to
what a note.
One touchdown to look relevant for a game.
Wow.
And then disappears again. So yeah. He likes to do that.
Kyle Rudolph did not practice. Kyle Rudolph is still in the league? Wow. What a note. Boy, these nuggets coming in hard.
You like
here.
it. I knew you'd like these. I was like, this is some good stuff here. I like hearing about Kyle Rudolph because Evan Ingram isn't doing anything. So
the Giants have used the same technique that the Cardinals have been using, where they pick up guys that nobody wants. Theirs just hasn't gone as well.
Yeah, they're trying. They're trying the money.
Yeah, their coin flip just landed on the other side.
Yeah.
Right.
A for effort.
Right. Will Fuller is still not practicing. That's the most disappointing thing ever, right? Will Fuller finally stays healthy for the first time in his career, plays 11 games, looks great, top 10 wide receiver, and then misses the rest of the year because he's suspended for PEDs. So then he comes back the following year and just goes right back to being hurt Will Fuller and never playing and disappointing you.
Well, it's not just hurt, it's a finger.
Yeah.
Like, how can you be sidelined this many games with a finger?
Yeah, I didn't get you're a wide receiver.
Did I miss that? Did he blow it off during the 4th of July? Like, what are you doing that your fingers are... Russell Wilson is able to throw a ball with a nub. Taysom Hill also able to do so with a nub. I don't understand.
Yeah. All right, this next note actually, to me at least, is relevant. Devontae Parker is back at practice after he's been dealing with a hamstring injury for most of the season. He's only played 5 games this year, but in those 5 games, he's averaging 12.7 points per game. And when he was on the field, granted, it was at the beginning of the season, but when he's been on the field, he was the primary target ahead of Waddle. So are you concerned at all, first of all, for Waddle's value if Parker is back, for the huge games that he's been having? And if you're not concerned, or whether you are or not, what do you think the value is for Parker through this stretch? Because I've been able to add him off the waiver wire in a couple of leagues, thinking that maybe there's a chance he becomes the number 1 there again, and I've got a consistent flex on my bench.
I think you're close. I think he actually becomes the number 2 because they don't really have one that asserts himself. I mean, you have a bunch of thrown together pieces. I think Gesicki ends up losing a lot of targets here, and then Parker ends up being the guy that you can go to outside of Waddle when Waddle has too much coverage to help pull it away. So I think it's better for the offense. I'm just curious to see how many targets he ends up getting. I'm going to guess probably 6 or 7. Mm-hmm. Well, Waddle sees closer to 10, 11 targets a game.
Yeah, in the 5 games that he's played this year, he has had at least 7 targets in each of those games.
I think he can basically pencil him in for about 6+ targets a game once he returns. And the biggest thing will be Waddle's not going to be, he's going to have less targets, obviously. That's just how it's going to work whenever you have more reliable option on the opposite end. But we've seen that instead of being Jalen Waddle as the target hog, it's going to be more of a balanced attack, and Waddle will still be a focal point and the number 1 option. Mike Gesicki just loses everything here. He's not been playing well recently, but he's getting targeted still. It's just not producing that much. Mm-hmm. This just completely shuts the door on him.
Right. I mean, he probably still takes some of the junk targets because they have to go somewhere, and they don't have a whole lot of talent outside of Gesicki to catch them.
Yeah. So. But again, to my point, just to reiterate it, through the first 5 games that he actually did play, Parker was averaging 8 targets per game, 5 receptions, and 65.5 receiving yards.
I mean, that's basically been his career.
Yeah. So 5 for 65, that's 11.5 points. I mean, you can pencil that into flex ranking on a weekly basis. And if he finds the end zone, he's a wide receiver too. So for a guy that is probably widely available on your waiver wire, I would absolutely make that add if you can. Let's see, what do we got? Philip Lindsay did not practice, will not play, listed as doubtful. So, it was a great pickup for them. They definitely needed to add another body there. It worked out really well so far.
Well, they used him. It's super frustrating that he was even used, but definitely helped salt away that game. Golly.
Oh, yeah, for sure. So what do you do with the Harris-Stevenson situation? I like Harris, but where is the floor?
I think this is really matchup dependent.
Committee in New England?
Yeah, I mean, you're looking
The matchup is Monday night against Buffalo. That's the matchup.
Yeah, I'm willing to play both of them Monday. Like 100%, I'm fine rolling both of them out on Monday. Funnel defense, all set up for them in potentially the worst weather that both teams are just made for because, let's go. It's going to be a sleigh ride here, and he should have a lot of success. Both of them should have success here.
Yeah, the running duo or the rushing attack of the New England Patriots, which has been great all season, just depends on who's the one that reaps the benefits.
Right.
And this has become a complete committee. This has been a 1A, 1B.
Yeah.
Since Harris has returned from his injury and Stevenson has been out of the doghouse. I mean, Harris hasn't had more than 15 carries since the Carolina game, and since the Atlanta game, whenever they were doing, that was the time they started splitting. They both had double-digit carries.
Yeah.
So he's 10 and 11 the past 2 games. I don't have a high ceiling for him, but he's the one that's got the better floor, I would say.
Yeah, I think it depends on what you're looking for here. So if you're looking for more upside, you're going to play Stevenson.
Yeah.
If you want, like you said, the safer floor and potentially the touchdown, you're looking at Harris because you get in close, that's going to be the guy that they go to because, man, is he able to run.
Yeah.
And they trust him a lot more than they do Stevenson at this point.
Right. Yeah. He's, as crazy as it is to say at this point, he's the aged veteran on that offense right now. So that's
24-year-old aged veteran.
Yeah, exactly. Philly against the Jets. Jalen Hurts dealing with an ankle injury. He's been participating in the walkthroughs on Thursday and Friday. Do we have any more information about Jalen Hurts at this point? Like, I heard that they were getting Gardner Minshew ready in the background, but that they still are hopeful Hurts plays.
Yeah, it looks like he's going to play, but it makes me super nervous that you're taking away potentially his biggest weapon and fantasy asset in his ankle and being able to run.
Right.
Yeah. Of course, that's also what we thought with Taysom Hill. So who knows? Maybe we're just
fair point.
We're getting this little
but like, Taysom Hill also sat out like 3 weeks, right? Like I'm pretty sure he.
Plus, I'm sure that plantar fasciitis is a lot worse than an ankle injury.
Right.
Yeah, that's something you live with for life, not just that 1 week.
Look, all I'm saying is free Minshew mania. That's all I'm saying. All right, just give the man a chance. Just let the mullet flow. That's all I want. Just let it happen.
Can he wear jean shorts during the game? Is that allowed for uniforms?
Just allow it, NFL. I mean, everybody wants to complain about how you're the no fun league again because they're right. But just let
if you throw a mullet and some jean shorts out there,
mullet and jean shorts, and I would be happy. I don't know about everybody. I was gonna say everybody'd be happy, but I'd be happy. I don't know about everybody else.
I really just wish they'd let him to wear like his jersey and just have the cutoff right around the arms.
Yeah.
Just the old raggedy practice jersey that he wears out and a cigarette, he's good to go. He'll totally rock that all day.
If CeeDee Lamb was fined for not tucking in his shirt, I think that they might have some problems there.
Yeah, 100%. Like I feel like he should be the starting quarterback, and they should like introduce the team, and then they all come out of the tunnel. But when he comes out of the tunnel, he's riding out on a golf cart that looks like his RV. So he's just like driving that to the middle of the field, and then he gets out and he just throws up the horns, and he's just, come on. It would be at least worth watching that game at that point, because otherwise I'm not seeing a reason here.
Now, I feel like I would like to see him halftime show. He comes out on a bull that's just going crazy, and then he hops off and does a big old lasso with his hat.
Today's halftime entertainment, Gardner Minshew's riding a mechanical bull at the 50-yard line.
It seemed like something he would do.
I sign me up. I would be all for it. Corey Davis missed practice with a groin injury, but he's good to go. Miles Sanders logs limited practice this week. He was removed from the injury report, though, so he should be all right. Jordan Howard logs did not practice. He will be ruled out this week. You've got Boston Scott, who is sick and didn't practice all week. They're still hoping he'll play. If you've got no Howard and you've got a limited or at least a little bit sick Boston Scott, does this mean Kenny Gainwell finally is back on the field again?
Oh, no. I just thought you were going to say that Miles Sanders might be a good fantasy play this week.
Oh, God, I would never say that.
I was really setting it up. I was hoping that was going to be the
crazy person.
I thought for sure you were just going to come and be like, oh, yeah, Sanders is a great play this week. We're going to be set to go. He's going to get all the snaps to Gainwell. They don't like Gainwell. And
you would have to go so far down. Your team would have to be so desperate. Like Miles Sanders or Ty Johnson rest of season. I don't know. I like Ty Johnson's upside.
Man, you're on Sanders as much as I was on Mixon last year. And it's just hysterical to me.
Yeah, but at least mine is justified. Like
so is mine. Did you see how bad he played? And now he gets all the snap and is looking great, and I've been on him all year because of it.
At least Joe Mixon had a couple of flashes. Like he looked good and had some stretches of weeks where he put up numbers.
I was like, didn't Sanders have a decent week? I guess not. He got the touchdown vulture by Scott. Right?
If you took away like 3 80-yard carries in Miles Sanders' career, he'd have a total of like 300 yards in 40 games or something. Like he's terrible.
He is known for those 80 plus.
Yeah, that's it. You're banking on the home run with Miles Sanders. So
I don't even know if that's a home run. Like that's at least a grand slam. Hit like a 70, 80-yard touchdown.
I mean, look, it's week 13 of the season. So, I mean, we've gotten to this point. If you're here looking for Miles Sanders advice, then I don't know how you got here. Like, if you drafted Miles Sanders and your team is still alive in week 13, how is that possible? Like you should have been eliminated by week like 4 or 5.
Yeah.
You've
been lucky enough. You don't need us.
Kudos for you. This is great.
I do want to say though, for
ball league or something.
Elijah Moore, what we expected to happen did happen with Wilson back under center. He came back down to earth. He was still targeted, but you can only do so much as a talented player like Moore.
Yeah.
Whenever your quarterback plays like that.
Yeah, 5 massive targets. Woo!
I mean, and that was the thing too. We talked about at the beginning of the season how Elijah Moore was getting all the hype in the preseason, that he was the next AJ Brown, that he was going to put up all these numbers, and he was a physical freak that could do all this stuff. And then he struggled for the first half of the year, and we were like, oh, is this guy just overrated? And then all of a sudden, Mike White comes in the game, and it's like, oh, it's just the quarterback. Okay. Oh, all right. Good to know. He was appropriately rated. It was just the situation of getting him the ball. So what you need to do is you just put a Zach Wilson jersey on a jugs machine, and you'll be fine. And Elijah Moore will go out there, put up 100 yards every week. But until that happens, I think you're hoping and praying they fix that. Is it going to be?
I don't understand. I don't understand what is going on with Zach Wilson. That every other quarterback has success, and he comes in and just ruins it all.
I don't know. I just don't think he's that good. I thought he was overhyped to begin with, and now he just doesn't look good. But again, it's still soon, and he has been hurt for much of the year. But even when he was healthy at the beginning of the year, just has not looked great. I know it's difficult to give up, especially it makes it easier to give up easier to stick with him than it would be otherwise. Like I was trying to think, would this be another Josh Rosen situation? But I don't think so, because they're going to have a decent pick, but this QB class coming in isn't good enough to justify taking another top 5 quarterback and immediately moving on from Zach Wilson.
But they seem like you have Mike White. Why don't you just roll out Mike White? You saw that he had more success in his. I mean, I just don't understand why they don't make that switch, because he was also drafted this year, right? Or am I just completely? Okay.
Nope, you're right. He's also a rookie.
So
White?
Yeah.
I thought he was like a second year.
Is he a second-year player? I thought he was drafted at the end of this year's draft, maybe.
Yeah, I was like, oh, great. They're starting out with 2 rookies. That's the whole reason I had that in my head for some reason. But I could be crazy. Not. I need to take the pills and we'll be all back on track. But
oh, that's what it was. He was drafted in the 5th round by the Cowboys in 2018. So he's been in the league. He's just never played.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's just always been practice squad or deep depth chart. So there you go.
Well, if you ask him, he was number 1 overall.
Well, I mean, the numbers backed it up. He beat out the number 2 overall. So, I mean, Fair enough.
Transitive property.
Exactly. He knows how to math. Okay, give the
Real
man
well.
some credit.
Real well at the math here.
Yeah. Colts and Texans. It is what it is. The only thing of note here is, Derrick Henry is hurt. So somebody has to put up 200-yard rushing performances against the Texans. Who better than Jonathan Taylor? If you're going to keep doing a Derrick Henry impression, you have to put up 200 yards this week, right?
Yeah. All he needs is a couple targets, and he's good to go. I'm really hoping that they're touchdown targets because, man, I need Wentz to have a good week this week.
Yeah. I mean, but otherwise, is there anything you care about at all in this game other than that?
Dear Tyrod, throw the ball to Brandon Cooks.
I know that's what you care about. Sorry, poorly phrased.
If you had to have like a Hail Mary type, like deep league play, I like Hilton this week. He historically dominates the Texans, and he has played okay. I wouldn't be against, like I said, it's got to be pretty deep league, but if you're going that far, that's a guy that you wouldn't mind throwing out there.
Yeah,
and the coaching staff knows
a lot of stuff.
Yep.
Even just as recently as last year, he was 100+ yards.
He scored targets. His first week back with them, like against the Texans, he scored a touchdown. So you're guaranteed at least 6 points there. So
I don't know what it is. It's just whatever's in the water when he plays the Texans.
Lead probably would be my guess. If I had to guess. I mean, how desperate would you have to be to play David Johnson? Pretty desperate.
I've seen a lot of people asking about David Johnson and Burkhead, so I'm just like, might as well throw it out there.
Even if Johnson misses, I'm still not excited about playing Burkhead, but he would be a solid play just based on volume. I mean, he has to get the ball. He's the only running back at this point that. I mean, did they elevate Royce Freeman or whoever else is on the roster yet? I don't even know who's on the roster anymore for them in the backfield. They had so many, now they've just been swapping them around.
What was his name?
It was Lindsey, right?
They had Ingram, they had Lindsey, now they're both gone.
What was his name? Scotty Phillips. That was the one I couldn't think of. But yeah, Royce Freeman is on the active roster on the back end.
It is sounding like Johnson might not play or is leaning towards not playing. So, adjust your rankings accordingly.
Yeah.
All right, let's move past that game. That
lasted long enough.
Yeah, that was way too long, really. Washington going up against the Raiders. Logan Thomas was limited Wednesday dealing with a hamstring. McKissick absent from practice with the concussion, has been ruled out. Curtis Samuel limited Thursday and Friday with the groin and is questionable for Sunday. We talked about this before. I can't trust Curtis Samuel. I mean, to me, I not even worth rostering. I just don't.
Actually looked really good.
Yeah,
without him there, and that's the most surprising part of this is like Carter stepped in and looked really good. I'm surprised it wasn't Sims. I thought Sims would be the guy that would step in, but Carter's looked decent, so it's hard to trust Samuel on touchy targets anyway.
Darren Waller missed practice all week with a knee injury and has been ruled out for Sunday. Deshaun Jackson, is that real? The real Deshaun Jackson? He's still in the league? Oh, right. Yeah, forgot about that. Returned to practice on Friday after did not practice on Wednesday, and he's got the calf injury. And then Josh Jacobs limited after he very briefly left that game last week, questionable for Sunday. If Jacobs doesn't play, I still believe in Kenyon Drake to the moon. If he does play, though, I still believe Kenyon Drake on your bench firmly. Cannot trust it.
I was thinking, I thought for sure you're going to say, if Jacobs misses, Foster Moreau to the moon.
No, definitely not.
I think either way, Hunter Renfrow is going to have a big day.
Yes. He's the only one you've been able to rely on that offense week in and week out. It's been extremely surprising.
Finally it happened. I'm a year late, but it happened.
Let's see. Jags and Rams. We talked about this one briefly. Henderson doesn't practice on Wednesday or Thursday dealing with the thigh issue. He is questionable for Sunday. Jason, you already talked about Sony Michel. Is that somebody you feel like is worth playing if Henderson doesn't?
Just because of the matchup, I can see him having enough volume to put up a decent day and likely find the end zone. I mean,
haven't the Jags been decent against the run?
They've been okay. I think they're top 10. But again,
their defensive line overall is pretty solid. It's probably their best aspect on their entire team.
Yeah, I think the conception is
teams are able to throw on them. That's why you're able to.
Exactly. People see, oh, the Jags are terrible. They're a bad defense. Start everybody against the Jags. But really, they've given up 18.6 fantasy points a game to running backs. It's middle of the pack, 15th best matchup. So I
could easily see the Rams airing the ball out like crazy. Even if OBJ misses, I could see them airing it out.
I feel like there's a non-zero chance that their run game just becomes 3-yard passes to Cooper Kupp over the middle all day long, and he ends up with 20 targets and 15 receptions at the end of this game. Let's see. James Robinson does not practice Thursday with the heel and knee injuries. Returned to practice on Friday, listed as questionable. Is there anyone worth starting on Jacksonville at all? Like in general?
I mean,
as a general philosophy, do you start anybody on Jacksonville?
If you're desperate at RB, I think you could probably roll out Hyde, which hurts me to say, but I think the volume is going to be there for him. Outside of that, you're kind of rolling the dice and hoping that Chanel sees double-digit targets, which he's been doing okay with since Agnew went out. So outside of that, no.
And those are pretty desperate.
Yeah, I don't think Ramsey's going to shadow anybody. I think he's just going to be on the field. So,
because he hasn't shadowed in general throughout this season, but you could see with big matchups he was following around pretty much. This isn't a big matchup, so
they also don't have anybody that is a dominant wide receiver one on their team.
I mean, like you said though, last game Hyde was the starter. He had 20+ touches guaranteed. Yeah. It didn't produce a whole lot, but he had 20+ touches. So it's, that's it. It's about all you can really do.
What it is. Yeah.
And we saw Meyer just loves him. I don't know why, but he just loves him.
Right. We've got Baltimore against Pittsburgh. Pat Freiermuth looking to be progressing through the concussion protocol. I believe he's good to go, right?
He is. He had a full practice, and he is set for Sunday. Let's go.
He is clear to go.
And then Chase Claypool limited practice Wednesday with the toe injury, but I believe he also is good to go on that.
He should be, yeah.
Yeah, just don't look at the defensive side of the ball.
No, it's overrated on either one of these teams, really. I mean,
it's going to be
ugly.
You're kind of hoping that this ends up being a fun game, but I'm expecting a lot of time possession for the Ravens here.
Yeah.
Boy.
49ers, Seahawks. Boy, two teams on the opposite end of the spectrum, right? You've got the 49ers who have been white hot lately, and you've got the Seahawks who have just been terrible for the better part of this season since the Russ injury, basically. Debo has been ruled out with the groin injury. Their star running back. He's going to miss this week.
So Ayuk actually has a pretty good chance here. Where he's going to see double-digit targets. He's set. Ugh.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we were talking about the other day, too. Like, since they've moved towards Debo getting more rushes, getting more carries, more involved in the running game, he's only been getting 4 or 5 at most targets in the passing game.
Driving me insane. I don't understand.
So he's been getting more rushes for his touches and opportunities than he has been getting targets. Since that's been happening, Ayuk has seen a tick up in his production. This past week, Kittle only had 2 targets. I would feel like, me personally, that Debo being out of the lineup means an improvement for Kittle, not Ayuk. I can't imagine he gets higher than he's already been.
It should be.
I'm assuming he gets some of those running touches. Is all I can expect because he does have that talent. I mean, granted, Debo is a freak when it comes to his talent level in comparison.
Yeah.
But Ayuk can still get that kind of thing done. Or is it Sherfield, the other one that they like to use in the backfield like that?
Trent Sherfield. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the other kind of a jet sweep guy.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that Ayuk will get what he's been getting the past couple games.
I think his role doesn't really change a lot. I think it's maybe Kittle gets more involved now.
Yeah, he's been more of a downfield threat the past 3 games for them, getting about 80 plus yards and a touchdown 2 of the last 3 games. Kittle has been the one that he should see an uptick because they just didn't really use him or need him as much last week against the Jags, and Joe or 2 weeks ago was against the Jags, but I like Ayuk this week. I think he's going to have a very good game, but they could easily run this out the stadium.
Yeah. Again, I think he's good where he's been. I've got him in the back end wide receiver 2 range. I think he's fine with that. Right now, he's like top 15 in the ECR, and that's crazy to me. People want to just put him right back to where he was in the preseason. Michael Hasty logged practice on Wednesday dealing with the ankle injury. Trey Sermon didn't practice, ruled out on Friday. Collins questionable, as we mentioned. Basically, their whole running back room is questionable.
Everybody has the queue next to him, and they're all hurt.
Yeah.
Perfect.
And none of them are good.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Adrian Peterson's going to get signed and then just immediately start and have like 20 plus carries.
Yeah, and it's not a situation, too, when you have to worry about conditioning. Like, he's been on the Titans, and we've seen him do it. We saw him get traded from New Orleans to Arizona, and then that week put up a 20-point fantasy performance. So there's a non-zero chance AP gets signed to the active roster and is somehow the starter this weekend for Seattle.
Well, I think I actually saw that he was promoted and kid to actually play this week.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious to see if that actually happens because, wow, that's terrifying.
I think that's a
when
quote
he outproduced Collins, do you think he is better than Collins is a real question here. Because if so, maybe they have something going on in this must-win or win now situation.
Yeah, the win now Seattle Seahawks. They are going up against the Niners, who have been a terrible matchup. So I definitely would not want to be playing any of these guys if I could avoid it. So yeah, I don't know.
If anyone, I feel like Lockett, even specifically in the backfield. No, I wouldn't
specifically in the backfield. Yeah.
Well,
I never want to play Tyler Lockett anyway. Like, that's just a general philosophy thing for me.
You could say the whole offense in general is kind of just stay away until proven otherwise.
Right. Yeah, we talked about it on the show last night as well with DK Metcalf, how his line this week is set for 63.5 receiving yards, the over-under, and he's got 70 yards total in their last 3 games combined. So it's hard for me to think he's going to get up to 63 in one game. I get that. I mean, San Francisco's not great on the back end, but I don't see this getting any better anytime soon for Seattle's offense.
The only reason I'm okay taking the over on that is because that he is making such a noise and they are giving so much noise to, we need to get DK the ball. That's the only reason I'm taking any kind of value to it, because if they actually do, if he sees 13 targets or a double-digit target number, yeah, he's going to go over 63 real easy.
Well, yeah, I mean, because at that point, yeah, he would have to
get him the ball.
Right. If you gave him 10 5-yard catches, yeah, he'd get to 50 pretty quickly. So that's about the only way I think it happens, though.
Jet sweep. That's what they need to do. They need to jet sweep that boy.
Yeah, use him as a tank. Metcalf as the starting running back. Now you're on to something. There you go. Make him the Cordarrelle Patterson of this offense.
I will move up to Seattle and help you here. We'll jet sweep DK right through the end round to be completely set. We'll use the running back as a lead blocker. You're all good.
And then we've got Denver against Kansas City. We already talked about the running back situation on Denver's side. On Kansas City's side, CEH missed practice on Friday with a stomach bug, but he is still expected to go on Sunday.
The crazy part about this is this stomach bug. I saw somebody on Twitter post how it is exactly the same scenario a year ago where CEH missed practice at the end of the week with a stomach illness, was said to play the game, didn't play a snap. Dressed, didn't play a snap.
Yeah. That's right.
Just a complete single, they get the exact year from that.
There you go.
IBS maybe? Who knows?
Maybe.
He just gets a sporadic IBS situation that he just has to struggle through.
And then the Monday night game is New England against Buffalo in a game that surprisingly matters, that nobody really saw coming. Buffalo has played like trash as of late. They looked really good on Thanksgiving, but that was against the beat up Saints team. They've been on and off, up and down. So I don't know. They've been so bipolar this season. It's hard to trust them. Whereas the Patriots right now are probably the hottest team in football. At this point, you're starting any of your guys on either squad, right? I mean, they've been playing good enough that I would justify it.
I'm not. I'm okay rolling out Diggs and Knox.
Mm-hmm.
I guess and Breida. I'm out on Singletary. I'm out on the secondary wide receivers and Beasley and Sanders because that whole thing has been obnoxious to me at this point. And then on the Patriots, I've absolutely fallen in love with Kendrick Bourne and his ability to connect with Jones when he needs to. Mm-hmm. He is saving him like more often than not. Kendrick Bourne is looking great for Mac.
I mean, I'm okay with Cole Beasley and Emmanuel Sanders lost all value once Dawson Knox returned to health.
Yeah.
The backfield, I'm still iffy on it. Breida is the play if you have an upside there because he's way more explosive than Devin Singletary, but Devin Singletary played more snaps and was relied on more frequently throughout the drives as just getting touches. But Breida was able to break that. I think it was a 30-yard touchdown against the Saints.
Yeah.
So it's tough I would love to wait another week if you could, but if you had to play one this week, I would be okay with Breida.
Yeah. And he's been fairly consistent the last few weeks, and Zach Moss has been a healthy scratch now. So it's Singletary and Breida in that backfield, and Breida's been the one they can rely on. But the Patriots defense has been solid all the way around. So that I'd have to be pretty desperate to go with Breida there. But yeah, I'm good with all the skill position guys. I'm still good with playing Cole Beasley. I'm still good with playing Knox. I'm actually okay with playing Sanders because we know this is Bill Belichick. And what does he do best but eliminate the other team's best option? So I think he's going to do everything he can to eliminate Stephon Diggs from the game. And that's going to force Allen to look elsewhere and try to find other ways to move the ball down the field. All right. Do you want to go through any of these start sits that we may not have covered here?
No, I mean, I think we kind of touched on most of them. And so it's just, I think my big thing is actually, I am really trusting that Josh Reynolds is going to get going. I think that he's had established a connection with Goff. I think it's all set. And
he had to get his legs under him. He had to learn the playbook a little bit that first week. But yeah, even on a short week in that game against Chicago, he was far and away their best wide receiver.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's established himself as a one. He looks really solid, and he's that big play guy, and he can easily do that. If that's the case, I think he really helps out Hawkinson, but I'm going to wait on Hawkinson still this week. I have him outside of my top 12. I can't do it. I wish I could, but they're still going to have a lot of help over there because he is the main option, which I completely understand until Reynolds really gets a good target share, like 8 targets would be ideal. I think they're going to still cover Hawkinson enough to make him pretty useless. Outside of that, I like Cole Kmet is a big one for me. I like Cole Kmet this week because, again, Andy Dalton's the starter.
Yep.
I'm all set for that. Luckily, he is probably going to see 6 or 7 targets, and that's enough for me because even I'm going to say it because I hate it. Jamie Grandpa's there. He's going to get a stupid touchdown from Kmet and ruin my whole day again.
All right. Mm-hmm.
But Kmet gets enough work between the 20s that he's completely useful and should be fine.
Especially in PPR. He's involved.
Allen Robinson out.
Yeah.
And Andy Dalton under center. So that works out. Outside of that, if you're looking at defenses, the Washington football team, I think they can do enough to bother the Raiders. And so, yeah, I think that covers all the stuff that I'm really interested in. I'm high on Tua this week. just because matchup. And Waddle.
Exactly.
So.
Well, I mean, we're almost there. So we're week 13, which means next week, week 14, is the new last week of the standard fantasy football season. So one more week to go, guys. We can do it. We can do it. Mike, where can people find you on the socials?
You can find me on Twitter for _Mike_Manning, and you can find most of my work on Important Nonsense. Thursdays, there is a wide receiver cornerback matchup article that comes out for to target, for to avoid. It can be used for yearly, dynasty, daily, you name it. Just gives you a heads up or a little bit of a advantage with some stats to back them up for all these fringe guys that aren't, your number 1 or number 2 receivers. You need to fill those number 3 or flex spots. That's what you got to look for.
Yep. Love it. Nerd Man, I'm pretty sure everybody knows where to find you, but
you
want to plug anything?
No, I don't have anything. I'll just see you guys all again on Monday for the waiver wire show, and then back here again Friday.
All right. Well, again, shout out to our sponsors, Underdog, over there in the corner. Use promo code nonsense if you're not already playing with us. There you go. See, you guys figured out the point. You got it. Of course, follow us, patreon.com/important nonsense. $1 gets you into the Discord. You can ask all your start sit questions. You can talk to the guys.
Find out nothing.
Yeah, exactly. Enjoy the utter nonsense and news feed that goes on in there. And then we've got our $3 tier, which is the sports betting guys. And you can get access in our Discord to ask questions there, as well as our underdog plays and the money line and over under plays from Vishal and Mason. Vishal is still in the top 5 of all 3 categories right now in accuracy.
So pumped for Vishal. That's awesome.
Again, if you signed up at the $3 tier for our sports betting package and you've been playing Vishal's pick all season, your subscription to the website is paid for itself and then some at this point. So
and I guess Mason Cameron too. He's done okay.
Yeah, Mason is currently number 1 on the money line. So there you go.
Can't get much better than that.
Yeah, exactly. But again, appreciate you guys. Appreciate everybody watching. And until next week, keep up the nonsense.